I hereby introduce to you Mr. Michael Veazey.
Hey, welcome back to Amazing FBA. Welcome to 2019. Hope this is going to be your best year yet. I certainly intend this to be one of my best years. I think last year was pretty good. There were some good things. There were some challenges. So I'm going to talk, having talked in the last episode, frankly, not the best episode probably because I was absolutely full of cold and about to dash out the door to go on holiday and then see family and goodness knows what. But I'm back. I'm on it. So I am going to today do quite a comprehensive trip through 2018 and review 2018 and then look forward to 2019. Sorry, I've got that classic January disease when you're not sure which year it is, but I'll figure it out. So welcome back. First thing to say is if you haven't yet heard about or downloaded our Build lead magnet, then do get that. AmazingFBA.com/build, BUIL for Lima, D for dog. That is for people who are just coming into e-commerce. If you're a more advanced seller, then we've got lots of exciting things I'm going to mention in the course of the show as well. So stay tuned. So I'm going to go back basically over Amazing FBA, touch on my personal life and a little bit on e-commerce life. I looked in detail on how to review your own e-commerce business in episode 300. If you didn't get that, as ever, AmazingFBA.com/300. And that is, of course, one of the things that I'm going to be celebrating. So let's get into the nuts and bolts here. So first of all, let's talk about wins. And this is very much the kind of format that I use in masterminds these days. Let's talk about wins and let's look at the challenges in order to learn from them and decide, okay, what do we need to solve? What do we need to stop doing? What do we need to start doing? So I'm going to talk about goals for 2019, not just in terms of what I'm going to start doing, but I'm going to stop doing other things to make the time, money, and space available for exciting new things. So first of all, wins. I would say the first thing that I almost forget to acknowledge to myself is that we have been in business now at Amazing FBA Tower since September 2015. So that's 3 years, 3 months, or I guess it's coming up on 40 months, which is a bit of a rounder number. And we just obviously hit 300 episodes, which I think is a bit of a milestone. It's a marathon, not a sprint, running any business. But I think the Amazing FBA business, as well as the e-commerce stuff, they both require some staying power. And I suppose I've got to acknowledge to myself that 300 episodes doesn't mean anything if it doesn't actually help anybody, but it's been 300 episodes with a lot of nice feedback from people, and we've had lots of people through the masterminds now and the mentoring program, beginning to bring people into the PLP course as well, which is very exciting. So let me talk about the wins first. So the podcast's been around for 3 years and 3 years, 3 months. I'm going to make a note of that here, otherwise I'll forget. And 300 episodes, so all the threes. Interviews with experts, mostly in the former part of the year. I think that's always a big win. That's something that quite a lot of people have mentioned to me, even some of the very advanced sellers, some of whom are really killing it. And I'll talk more about that later. In the 10K Collective have said that they came in because of the interviews that I did with experts. So that's something that worked very well in the former part of the year. The latter part of the year fell off a bit. We'll talk about challenges later on. I think also started to introduce to the podcast the idea of e-commerce as a whole rather than just an Amazon focus. And we had a particularly important interview with Jason Miles of Winning on Shopify. And I think that's going to be an increasingly important theme for any e-commerce sellers or any people who are just Amazon sellers at the moment. I think that off Amazon focus, not necessarily through Shopify or even your own store. There are multiple ways to get off Amazon, and we can talk about those in future episodes. But let's just say you don't have to be obsessed with Shopify, but there are many ways of getting off Amazon. And we just had a 10K Collective Mastermind kick the year off in about the 9th of January 2019. I'm getting the year right now. And we really did have quite a lot of variety. Just organically, it turned out that lots of people were approaching lots of ways of getting off Amazon. But some people were building their own Shopify store. Some people were working on off Amazon marketing in order to drive sales on Amazon. Other people were even discussing getting things into big box retail and selling wholesale, having developed private label products. So there's more than one way to skin the cat. But I think that theme of getting off Amazon and broadening the discussion is something I think is incredibly important, and we'll be doing more of that in 2019. Another Jason Miles win, and as you can tell, I really rate Jason Miles, which is why we're having him in regularly, is the concept of digital goods as well as physical goods. And actually the fact that there's not the big divide between them. I mean, for example, even in the music products I've sold physical metronomes. I also use a metronome app, which is a way of just beeps and keeps time for you as a musician. And that's something that I personally use, and I'm not about to develop a metronome app, right? But as an example of the fact that the divide between the physical and digital products is kind of artificial. Another example, I'm going to pick it up. Actually, I've got it just here somewhere, but I've just ordered, I don't know where it is, but I've just ordered a book by the wonderful, amazing Richard Koch, Koch, an amazing business thinker. I'm not going to wax lyrical about him here any more than to just say that for now. But I've just bought a book called Simplify by him, which I promise you I'm going to do not just an episode, but possibly it might be one of the sort of big picture themes that I sort of hang content on for the whole year, because I think it's that important. But as an example of the difference between physical and digital goods, I bought it originally as, I might say 2 days ago or something, on Amazon, of course, as an ebook. Why? Because I fancied a physical copy, but I was impatient. I wanted to read it. And then I was doing the washing up yesterday, and I thought, you know what? I want the Audible book as well, because I want to listen to it while I wash up and get it going through my head. So I ordered the Audible book. I had a free credit because I've been, subscribed to Audible, which is an Amazon company. It's audiobooks, and ordered it and started listening. And then I thought, you know what, I really want to read the physical book as well. So I ordered that online, and guess what? It turned up today. Of course, Amazon Prime being what it is, they delivered today, which is a Sunday, but they still delivered within like 24 hours, if that, of ordering. So that's a classic example of the humble old book. Don't forget, that's what Jeff Bezos, one of the sharpest people on the planet, started off with as a product category, became, thanks largely to him, not just a niche thing like an ebook was a separate thing, but physical books are now also digital products. And guess what? You don't have to separate them. I'm a classic example. I've ordered all 3 versions of the same damn book because I really, really want to engage with it, because I think it's that important. But that's just a very simple Amazon at-home example of the fact that the division between physical goods and digital goods is getting blurred. So that's another theme that I think is going to be really important to explore in 2019 and beyond as well. So other wins from amazing FBA, the private label process course, or the PLP course. I've been wanting to create a course to help people for quite a long time to sort of classify and codify the work that I've been doing with mentoring clients for coming up 3 years now, 2 years and 3/4 roughly, since April 2016. And that was something that I've been wanting to do for ages. Finally got it done this year, or rather in 2018. It was amazing, great value resource. I truly think that what I've codified there, if it's used properly, will just massively, massively help people for, way better value for money than mentoring. Not because mentoring I don't think is good value. I believe in it myself, because I hired Jason Miles a couple of months after my last interview with him, or possibly, I think we've interviewed him 3 times in 2018, which is a good win. It's a sharp guy. Turns out he's got an MBA, a Master's in Business Administration, and a massive corporate background. I didn't know that when I hired him. I just knew he was smart, personable, really good coach, and good at drawing things out of people, and it was fun to work with as well. And it really, really, a good business coach is a great investment. But the PLP course, I just thought was a way to codify stuff and add for people who could only afford to spend £300 or £400 or something on their training for e-commerce, to give them an incredible value package. So I got to work with another win as part of that, is that apart from learning to structure a course, which is hard, I got so much quicker. It used to take me about a week to create a whole module's worth of content, and I got it down to the point where I could create that in about a day, along with a VA. I never could have done it on my own. VA or virtual assistant. By the way, virtual assistants, people ask me about this. Virtual assistants are not virtual. They're not robots. It's not like a chatbot, which is a virtual thing, which is an electronic brain, if you like. A virtual assistant isn't virtual. They're real people. They just happen to live in a different country, and in this case in the Philippines, the classic cliche place, if you like, to have a VA. And that person's Gary, trained up by my wonderful business partner Rob Sleeth, who's a super sharp guy and very process driven. So he's been very methodical at training Gary up to the point where he can handle somebody like me, who's a bit more, here's a load of stuff, just do it, and that tends to be my delegation style. I'm not as bad as that, I'm not as crass as that, but it's been a fantastic way of learning about outsourcing and delegating to somebody in the Philippines who's very well trained and really intelligent and responsive. But I've got to say, $5 an hour. I mean, the guy is just fantastic. I'd easily pay him more. Gary, if for whatever reason you're listening to this, dude, I rate you. I think you're amazing. I probably won't double my pay rate to you, but if you really want another $1 an hour, you got it, because I want to keep good people. So that's been an amazing place to learn about outsourcing in a more systematic way than, frankly, I've managed to get it done in my e-commerce businesses yet. And I want to go back to e-commerce businesses with that learning now that I've had, and possibly even with that very same VA actually, and systematize and process things more. So I can get more off my plate. But the nice thing about digital products is that you can innovate at a huge rate of knots that you can't afford to do unless you are sitting on, £500,000 worth of funding or something. And by the way, some of the members of the 10K Collective are sitting on that and have innovated with that many products. So it is possible. But I personally don't have that kind of capital. So what was been wonderful, it was to have the PLP course as a quick way of learning how to produce, and then gradually be forced for the sheer bulk of effort that is there to be done to systematize and outsource. And that's been a big, big win. And I think that's going to apply across everything I do, as long as I am relentless at creating processes and employing people to do them. And that's something I still struggle with. I'm a natural creator. I'm good at creating new products or new ideas. It's the processes and systematization that I absolutely know and believe 150% is important. I'm just not personally gifted at that. I just need to keep working at that. So that's been a fantastic learning curve for me. I've also learned a new platform, which is not strictly an e-commerce platform, but can be used for that, which is called Kartra, which is very much like a more affordable version of ClickFunnels, but it also has a really cool email autoresponder facility and lots of cool features. If you're considering ClickFunnels, I'm not like anti-ClickFunnels. I've not used it. I know some people swear by that. If you've only got 1 or 2 products and you want to get off Amazon quickly and easily, Shopify probably is more suitable for physical products, but I found Kartra really interesting. And again, learning about sales funnels, i.e. off Amazon marketing in more depth and trying to get better at it. Again, there's lots to do in terms of me learning more and getting better. But again, I do feel this is something I'm going to bring back to the e-commerce world and really a powerful off Amazon internet marketing funnel. Yeah, I've mentioned my business coach already. I must mention again, worked for nearly 6 months now with my excellent business coaches, Jason Miles and his partner, Kyle Hamer. I hope I've said that right, Kyle, of winningOnShopify.com. As you would guess from the name, they are experts in Shopify, although Kyle is the kind of in-house, as Jason said, well, you can't really talk about e-commerce without talking about Amazon. So that's why he works with Kyle, who's his Amazon specialist, and himself is doing several $100,000 a year on Amazon. So a serious seller himself. And very insightful guy, has worked in other forms of internet marketing, which all feeds into the picture, I think. So without consciously realizing, I suppose what I'm articulating here, this is why reviewing things is so powerful, because reviewing my business activities over the last year kind of shows patterns which you don't see at the time. But when you put it all together, I guess one of the patterns that's emerging is, I guess, that I've been focusing gradually, quite organically, without trying to consciously do it, on off Amazon marketing as much as on, and expanding off Amazon, not instead of, but as well as. And again, the digital products realm, like courses and other digital products, not getting to apps yet. And again, it's not instead of physical products, it's as well. I think, as Tim Ferriss put, over 10 years, 11, well, how many years ago? 11 years ago, I think the 4-Hour Work Week came out. He said, it's not a question of either or, but both and. Both physical and digital, both Amazon and off Amazon, because although you need to focus when you start off and keep things simple, so if you're starting off with e-commerce, you should probably start on Amazon. You should start with 1 or possibly 2 product lines. You need to start in a focused way. But if you are serious about creating a longer term business, I do believe that there are times where it's appropriate to branch out. Certainly getting off Amazon with physical products is good, but getting obsessed with physical products only when you could serve a marketplace that you know well with digital products, I think is also a mistake. And that still sounds radical in the Amazon echo chamber, even in 2019. I will be very interested to see whether by the end of 2019 or into 2020, whether that's still the case, because I do think that the separation of the two is artificial. That'll be an interesting thing. So there's some themes emerging, which I believe reflect the fact that I'm just picking up on where the markets are going to some extent. So that's been the one of the wins for me in terms of the business overall, really. I wouldn't say that's for the PLP course, but the reason I spoke to them is to work on the PLP course. So there's been a great win. And one of the other things I should mention about PLP is that we've had, I think, 23 beta and early adopter members, which has been fantastic, and it's been really helpful to have those people on board and being a bit more tolerant for a somewhat lower price point of us getting our teething troubles out of the way. So I think we've now got a wonderful platform which is called Kartra to host things. We've got 349 videos in and 20 modules, so it's really in-depth, but I'm quite proud of what we've done is that we've broken it down, I believe, in a way that it's very absorbable and actionable, and that the early feedback is that is true. So we will continue to refine that in response to the members, but we're going to be opening that to enrollment. But anyway, I'll talk about that. I'm still reflecting on 2018. So 2019, one of the things we're going to do, of course, is roll out the PLP course now to the more general public, including, of course, the podcast listeners, because I absolutely believe, based on the work we've done and looking at knowing several other courses really quite well, that this is pretty much the best value course out there in terms of in-depth but step-by-step and broken down, yet real-world based. I really think it's the most realistic and value for money course out there, and that's quite a statement. I'm not saying there aren't other good courses out there. They're either more thorough but incredibly expensive, or they're less thorough and more affordable. But I think the combination of affordable and thorough is pretty solid. Not for the faint-hearted, but then neither is building a business. So I don't apologize for that. I think there is a lot of detail that goes into this stuff. I made life hard by myself by creating a mega course, but I think it serves people. Anyway, so that's a PLP course. What else then in terms of wins? Because we'll come to challenges. It's not been just all, complete hunky-dory and, roses and unicorns, because that's not real life. The 10K Collective Mastermind, set that up in September 2017, and was delighted that within a couple of months I got a couple of, quite a collection of people together, including a couple of really heavy hitters, I thought at the time. Some people doing about £150,000, £200,000 a month on Amazon. The 10K Collective has since thrived. We've had 15 meetings since September 2017. The only month we took a break so far is December 2018, and December obviously for e-commerce sellers is a pretty horrendous month to be anywhere except at the computer dealing with customer service and shipment issues and God knows what. That has been an amazing success in lots of ways. First of all, let's talk hard numbers. I suppose first of all, the group dynamic I think is absolutely amazing, and what I mean by that is, and I say this first because I do think actually that's kind of the reason behind all the big wins. That everyone's got to know each other. They're getting more and more honest. The discussions are very frank. Sometimes people have not arguments, but quite vigorous discussions. It's kind of intellectually based arguments, but what's lovely is that people know each other really well. They take the mick out of each other gently, but it's also very, very focused. I think it's a unique mix that we've got going there. We've got a special thing going there, and I'm not just saying that because I run it, because some of the stuff I run isn't special and isn't working, and I'll talk about that in the challenges, right? But this is the best thing I've ever done, I think, in business, and one of the best things I've ever done in work life. It's such a success. Not surprisingly, perhaps the collective revenue has shot up. So one of the big hitters when he came on, I interviewed him in September, I think 2017, maybe it was October at the latest, and said, his best month so far had been £200,000 in a month, which, that's still substantial as far as I'm concerned. That's about $2.5 million a year. But guess what? He's just had his first £1 million month. And by the way, not $1 million, £1 million month. So in dollars, $1.3 million in 1 month, December 2018, right? That goes to show what can happen. Now, am I and the mastermind responsible for all of that? Clearly not. This guy is a serious, driven, great guy, and has done all sorts of things, including going and getting huge loans and massive investment in his company. But he does attribute, I think it's fair to say, some of the success to the mastermind, even a fraction of that success. That's a pretty amazing thing to do. So that has been an overwhelming success. Several members also went over the £100,000 in revenue mark. So, annualized would be over the £1 million a year. So they became kind of, if you extended the December figures, £1 million a year businesses. Now, okay, December's a special thing in retail, so that isn't realistic, right? But nevertheless, it's a hell of a figure to hit. So what's interesting there as well, I think, tying in with the previous discussion that I was talking about the podcast and the focus of the podcast and it naturally shifting, there's been an organic shift in that mastermind as well to be more and more about strategy rather than tactics, and more about the bigger picture of e-commerce. So people have been talking about influencer marketing more and more and more. So that's going to be another theme, big picture theme, I think, within the sort of traffic strategies for 2019 in in the more advanced people, and I've got a very, very exciting thing to announce for more advanced sellers. That is basically those who've got at least several $1,000s a month of revenue, or six figures a year coming in plus, right? Got something very exciting for those guys. But what was really nice, I've just reflected on it and just realized I went to an Amazon mastermind meeting where nobody talked about reviews, where nobody talked about how to hack the Amazon algorithm. And that was such a relief. I mean, yes, we've got to get that stuff right. You've always got to get that stuff right. And we will continue to discuss that. And I will continue to teach it and learn and refine that. But guess what? That's not probably where the big wins are. If you really want to be hitting it out of the park, it's much more about strategic thinking. And yes, those tactical hacks are part of the implementation of the strategy. But if that's all you focus on, that's different, right? Somebody else should be doing that stuff for you if you're getting serious and if you're really scaling up. You've got to have people who become experts at little tactical stuff. And for sure, you should keep your head close to the ground. But what's interesting is that the people who've really killed it have been, in terms of Amazon tactics, been doing pretty simple stuff. And I can reveal here right now that the idea of putting your price low and spending a fortune on advertising and then gradually putting the price up and putting the advertising spend down is been working like gangbusters. And a lot of other clever stuff, guess what? That stopped working because Amazon stopped it. It's so good to reflect on and work on strategic level stuff, on tactical thinking. And for me, there's so much more intellectual pleasure in that. And what's been wonderful to see is that if you have the courage of your convictions, sometimes I'm one of the most numerically driven and numerate people who's got an engineering background, so serious about his numbers and very analytical ability. But he went for a concept of creating a brand and spent a lot of money on it. And it looked quite difficult for a few months for him. And it's really paid off in spades in a very concrete way, like lots of money. So that's another example of the fact that if you have an insight and you follow it through properly at a strategic level insight, I mean, that can be more valuable than worrying about bits of cash flow on the micro level, although cash flow is critical, and worrying about the latest hack for getting reviews or ranking, even though you need that stuff. So for me, that's been a massive win. And if I just left it there, I'd be extremely happy with that. But no, there's more, as they say. As a direct offshoot of the 10K Collective, and in response to one of the members really pushing me for this, which is always a great clue when your customers are asking you to create products for them, we created and had the first meeting of the £1 Million Mastermind. As the name implies, that's only for people with a minimum revenue of £1 million a year, or very approximately £100,000 a month on Amazon. Although actually that's average income, obviously. Although in practice, I think the minimum income level of anybody in that meeting was 1.5 million. So as usual, I put the bar here, and then actually it turns out there's a market for that. So we had 7 members. Probably the highest turnovers there were several million a year. We had one person flew over from the Netherlands, who's the Netherlands who got a reward the day before, or I think the meeting, for being the Netherlands, the CEO of the biggest e-commerce growth company in the Netherlands. Sorry, that wasn't well put, but you know what I mean. The highest growing e-commerce company, he runs it, and he got an award. So that was fantastic, and we're going to be moving to a rhythm now in 2019 where we meet once a quarter. Probably going to start off with one day in February. We've got a date fixed for the 13th of Feb in the City of London. What a wonderful venue, at a very posh private members club. We went last time and quaffed some champagne at the end and what have you. That's going to be, I think, a lovely group for more advanced people, and I'm looking forward very much to applying some of the strategic insights that I've learned from the 10K Collective's collective wisdom and taking that to the next level with those guys. If, by the way, you are somebody that's qualifies for any of those things, you'd be very welcome to apply for those. It's application only. You just fill in a short application form, and then we'd have a thorough interview about it, and you can ask me as well as I ask you. Make sure it's a good fit. For the 10K Collective, just go to amazingfba.com/10K and you can read all about it and apply there. The £1 Million Mastermind is so new, I don't think I've actually got around to setting up an application form yet. So just email me, michael@amazingfba.com. What I should say is the 10K Collective, contrary to the name, it's not enough to be doing 10,000 a month. You need to be doing a minimum of £25,000 a month average income on Amazon, or that's about £300,000 a year, sort of average based on the last few months, I suppose. I don't have an absolute rigid rule about that because there's not a direct correlation between how smart a business person you are, how valuable you'll be, and how much money you're making. But we've got to start somewhere, right? So that is the requirement for the 10K Collective. At least £25,000 a month in e-commerce revenue. It doesn't have to all be on Amazon. Be delighted to get people in who have more Shopify experience. Most of the time, Amazon's where it's at for e-commerce, of course. For the £1 Million Mastermind, very simply, you need to be doing absolutely minimum of £1 million a year in revenue on Amazon or any other e-commerce platforms. Again, some of the members there are big on things like Groupon and bol.com, which is a Dutch site. So it doesn't have to be Amazon, but it must be e-commerce. So those are the requirements for those if you want to check them out. Like I said, £1 Million Mastermind is so new, and really I'm not... it's quality, not quantity. So just email me and let me know about yourself, and we can set up a chat, take it from there. So those are some of the big wins within the amazing FBA sphere. The last and not least, I'm going to mention personal life because I think it is part of the overall picture of life. It's no good if you have a fantastic business year, but the rest of your life's falling apart. Personal life, two simple wins, I think, for me. One is I've got married, which... For I'm not a lifelong bachelor, but for somebody who's been, never lived with somebody before and not been married before, that was quite a change. And actually, I think that long-term commitment and that way of thinking and being willing to have, to bite your tongue over the washing up in order to have a long-term happy marriage, is not a bad mentality for somebody who wants to build a business either. You've got to be in it for the long haul. So anyway, that's great. Very happy about that. We just celebrated 9 months of marriage the other day. Obviously happy about that, which is great. And the other thing is we went on holiday 8 times in 2018. One of the nice things about running online businesses, and it's not just e-commerce for me, obviously Amazing FBA is a big part of the picture as well, of course, but either of those can be run from a hotel room if needed. Now, I try and avoid working on holiday when I can, but we've gone so many times because my wife loves holidays and hey, who doesn't? And I love travel and I love languages, so it suits me and it keeps me fresh and, keeping my brain ticking over. And I think that's part of being able to be an interesting business person is keeping your imagination going, seeing cool products and experiencing different cultures and experiencing different places where, people wear different stuff. So we've been to Italy, we've been to Paris, we went to Sardinia for a honeymoon, which is technically part of Italy, but it's in the middle of the Mediterranean. Where else? Prague. I can't even remember where we've been. Where the hell have we been? I think we even went to Cornwall in England at some point at the beginning of the year. And I honestly cannot remember all the places we've been. But anyway, that's been really nice. And I think having that as part of the mix is really good. And there are some myths that float around about creating the so-called laptop lifestyle. I don't think a laptop's a lifestyle. I think it's just a tool, But what is true, what is 100% true, obviously true, is that if you've got any internet-based business that's digitally native, as the Americans put it, in the stock market, from my discussions with some of the guys in that realm, and I'll tell you more about that in a second, teaser, then yeah, it's obvious that that is true. And so you can work from anywhere you want in the world. And so I don't have any restrictions. Like my wife and I are considering possibly buying property somewhere. And one of the factors I don't really need to factor in is where we physically end up, because it doesn't really matter to me because I work mostly online. So I do some face-to-face meetings in London, but I can get there from anywhere really. That's one of the things that is a real win. And I've really enjoyed the fruits of that and not had to, fight my boss for time off or whatever else. So let's talk about challenges, because I think sometimes it's easy to paint a Pollyanna-ish picture. And actually looking back, I'm really, really happy. And again, one of the reasons to review stuff is to look at the stuff to be grateful for and just enjoy a bit of success and not so much, rest on your laurels. I've got plenty of work to do to become a more serious business person, to earn more money, to be more effective, to serve people better, etc. Right? But it's good to be grateful. It's equally good to be real about what hasn't worked as well as it could have done in order to learn from it. So one of the challenges I've had is the Zero to Hero Mastermind, which was a face-to-face group for just about any e-commerce sellers, and it turned out to be pretty much only for beginners, really, because I didn't set a high barrier to entry, and therefore people weren't attracted to it. It's so interesting that as soon as I set a barrier to entry of £10,000 a month, and I very quickly revised it to 25,000, then I started attracting all these amazing people together into what is now the 10K Collective Mastermind, and now could become a series of masterminds. We'll talk about that more in a sec. But the face-to-face meetings for the Zero to Hero Mastermind, it's always been very, very hard to get commitment from people. In fact, it's an extraordinary amount of denial amongst some of the members. Was one person that came to exactly one meeting in September of, it must have been 2017, and I got in contact with him a few months later because he hadn't been to any other meetings, and I said, look, you realise you're still paying a subscription. I think it was something like £69 a month or something, maybe it was 59. It was substantial enough anyway to be something you might notice after a few months, maybe not one or 2 months. And I said, look, I'm happy to refund it and stop, or not refund, but I'm happy to stop because I hadn't done anything wrong. I'd offered the meetings, he chose not to come. But, I'm happy to stop the subscription. And he said, oh, no, please don't kick me out. I'm like, okay, fine, but you might want to turn up. And then I got in touch about another 3 months later because he hadn't turned up. And no, same story. He wanted to stay in, but he just wasn't turning up at the meetings. And I just thought, well, this is really crazy. And if you turn out to be too busy to do something, that's perfectly understandable. We all do it. Just cancel and move on, But he was like that kind of an extreme version of what I would call the January gym goer. So it's like a fair weather friend or a sort of Christmas church attender. It's the same thing that in January, coming out of the post-Christmas thing where you look at your stomach, as I certainly have done recently, and gone, oh my God, my diet's terrible, my health is poor, which I certainly can relate to. I've had such a big cold, hopefully not coming across too much in the podcast. Actually, I feel energized by getting back to it. I love this stuff, but yeah, the cold's knocked me back, and also lots of things. So like everybody else, I'm coming out and going, oh, well, I want to get fit and healthy again. But the gyms are full in January, but go back in March, April, May, they'll be empty because it's very easy to get a commitment and then just kind of slope away from it. What's hard is to properly commit and do something come rain or shine, month in, month out, day in, day out. So it's the same thing, I guess. And like a lot of people now, I've joined the gym before, just to be clear, I don't want to be hypocritical. I've joined a gym and started paying in January, gone a bit, got excited and got a personal trainer, and then kind of sloped off, and then got a bit in February, and then in March didn't go, April didn't go, May didn't go. And by June, July, after a few months of denial, I've gone, you know what, I'm paying 30 quid, 50 quid, whatever a month, and I'm not using this, I better cancel. So this is like the extreme version. So I mention all of this because that was the extreme that defined a little bit of the vibe of that group. So for that reason, I've simply discontinued those now. I mean, some of the members really enjoyed, I think the quality of the meetings and the value of it when people actually turned up was really good. I really think I offered something probably too cheaply, actually, but it was certainly of value, a great value. I mean, way more value than you're going to get paying for a course 10 times the cost. It was only like, 50, 60, 70 pounds a month, that kind of amount. But you cannot run a group-based thing without commitment from all the members. This is the knife edge that you're on when you run a mastermind. And for me, that just wasn't working, so that's now shut down. Now, we'll see what happens next. I'm quite prepared to consider running things online, whatever's suitable. But just basically that business model was broken and needed to finish. So that was a shame. It had run its course. I'd sort of struggled along with it and accepted that level of poor commitment as the cost of doing business until I came across the members of the 10K Collective. And then I realized, hey, when people got skin in the game and they're committed, understandably, they are more committed to the process. And that's not really a criticism of the Zero to Hero Mastermind members. I got a bit funny about it at the time and, okay, fed up, pissed off, let's be honest. But you know what? I mean, if it wasn't right for them, it was okay for them not to turn up. I just think most people are not in the habit of making a decision yes or no. They kind of drift in the maybe stage. And guess what? I've been just as guilty of that as well. And I'll talk about that in a second. So let me come on to e-commerce, actually, because I think that ties in with that. Having been read about other people being not really yes or no, but kind of in the maybe, slightly denial stage, I think I've been doing something of that around my own e-commerce businesses. So the two places where that's really been true is, first of all, I had a legal challenge over, which wasn't really just so much a challenge as just a truth, that somebody challenged my whether I had the rights to sell something because they had the design patent, and having looked at it, I think they had a fair point, really. So I wasn't going to contest it, and that happened in mid-year, and I just let it drift. It wasn't so much denial of reality as like, I'm not sure what to do next about it, so I'm going to bury my head in the sand. And I did that for months, partly because it didn't make that much difference either way, but partly because I just didn't push it to the point where I just made a clear decision. Am I going to fight this? Am I not? If I'm not, what's the strategy? And my simple strategy now is going to be very simply to send that stuff off to orchestras, because it's an orchestra-related thing in the music sphere, and give them an early New Year's present now. It was going to be Christmas. I've let it drift, partly because I've been ill, which is another one of my challenges I'll mention in a second. But yeah, that was not my proudest moment. I let things drift for ages, and there was no reason to do that. And particularly as somebody who's a business coach, effectively, that was poor. I let myself down relative to my own standards, and I did not set an example for my clients. So I'm fessing up about it. If that happens again, because there are going to be challenges, sometimes you get a legal challenge which you can fight, in which case you should fight it. Sometimes there's a quality issue with the product, in which which case you have to just shut it down if it's complete crap. And I've had that before. And to be fair to my past self, at that point, I had the courage to shut it down. Somebody got in touch with a veterans home in America who needed it. It was a tuner for guitars and stuff, not a tuner as in the fish, a tuner with an ER at the end. It tunes guitars, right? And he happened to run a veterans home for guitars, and he wrote to me to see if I could do a deal for him and reduce the price. And I said, you know what, I can reduce it to $0. I'll even pay for shipping. Just understand not all of them may work properly. And he was very grateful. So that was kind of a win-win. That's exactly what I should have done with this set of stuff. And for whatever reason, I didn't get around to that. I'm in the process of that now. So there you go, a complete idiocy from me. So I'm still capable of burying my head in the sand. Sometimes it's just because there's too much on, right? Which is the other thing to say that, I mean, the broadest challenge I've had is like a lot of entrepreneurial ADHD, and the fact that I'm a creative type person. So if you're a creative person, you want to keep producing more products in the broadest sense of that word, right? So more product lines, more businesses, more products within each business, more services, etc. And that's always big because I'm a creative type. I tend to add product. But what I haven't done is the classic thing of adding the I can't remember who to attribute it to. It would be in the show notes, by the way, which will be at amazingfba.com/301. But those are the classic three, which some guy mentions, who I can't remember who it is: the products, the person, and the process. And you've got to get the person and process down if you're going to scale a product. Otherwise, you add products and then you take away time and energy and money from other products, and they start dying down. And that's what I've let happen across the board with e-commerce really this year. Partly, really, or mostly because for the latter half of the year, I've been distracted by the PLP course creation, which took way more time than I expected. And as a result, I've had very mediocre sales in Q4, which always hurts because I know so many people have had amazing sales. I know how it works. I'm competent in Amazon stuff. I know how to do it. I just didn't have the time. And that was very frustrating. So one of the big learnings that I'm going to have from that is simply to do a couple of things, which is to cut the amount of businesses that I'm involved in. I've got 2 e-commerce businesses. I'm basically own one and I'm a partner in the other. Need to decide which one of them is going to go, frankly, which is really painful because they've both taken a lot of energy and time. They both have potential, but I just don't think I've got the time to do both. So I need to make a hard decision. And I've spoken with my business partner about that, and he was really the one saying, is it real? Have you got the time? So giving things up is hard. And especially when something's kind of working but not really working. And that was kind of true with the Zero to Hero Mastermind. This is definitely true with my e-commerce stuff. But I know that there are so many exciting things. I have quite a clear idea in the strategic, biggest picture level of where I want to be going in terms of direction. So I need to clear the space to be able to do that and do the more exciting, inspiring e-commerce things, which will inspire me to really enjoy the process. Talking of the PLP course, it took about 3 times longer than expected to make it. Started in June and it took to December. Why? Because I wanted to serve people with detail and really specific step-by-step instructions, so we didn't just leave gaps through which people could fall, having experienced that myself as a consumer of courses in the past, which I think left massive gaps, like how to source from China, which is just shocking, back in 2014, but nevertheless. I found that shocking, and I didn't want somebody else to have that experience taking my course. I wanted to have everything they need right there. But of course, that's a very worthwhile aim. But I was expecting to make maybe 150 videos. And of course, once you dig into detail, there's so much that goes into building a business. Guess what? 349 videos later, no wonder it took me 3 months. However, having said that, I do think that it's remarkably similar to my process of getting my first private label product out back in 2014. In about April, I was hoping to launch it in September, and it took to December. And that's just real life. But I do expect the longer term payoff to be really good. For starters, for my clients, it's immediately great because it's a really properly constructed, detailed course. I've had a lot of help and inputs. I've been able to structure things really well. We're using a fantastic platform. And then over the next 12 months, the money should come back to me in spades, I think, as a return on the money that I spent. Quite considerable money getting it built with help from VAs and from Rob as well. And I've also developed the skill set of creating a digital product as well. So that is really, really powerful. And I think that's going to serve me very well going forward as well. Final set of challenges has been personal life, health, really cold. I've had a major sort of head cold from mid-December to nowish, really mid-January. I've still got it. Fortunately, I've got a bit more energy back now, and I can get back to the podcast. But it really messes with you, especially if your energy level's low and you're there to try and inspire others. That just doesn't work, and it's particularly attacked my voice from a hacking cough, which for a podcaster is obviously a disaster. So, yeah, that's been very annoying. And I think the main challenge, the main thing I'm learning from these things is a few things. First of all, learnings, right, from the challenges. First of all, you can't force commitment, the Zero to Hero Mastermind. If something isn't the thing that people need to commit to at that stage in their lives, that's okay, but that means you can't really work it in a mastermind situation. If people want to dip in and out of a course or a Facebook group, that the course exists whether or not they're there, but it doesn't work for a mastermind group. So that's why for people at the early stages, the PLP course is now the main focus. That said, I want to make that more social. So the 10K Academy, where the members of that course reside, I want to do some Facebook lives, some more events, more interactive stuff there. So it could be that a version of the Zero to Hero Mastermind will regrow itself within that context, I think. Second learning, probably the biggest learning for me, is what I can offer as a convener of the mastermind is greater than I can offer purely from my own personal e-commerce experience. So the 10K Collective, in other words, my personal e-commerce income's never really topped more than 20, 30,000 a month. I mean, probably 30,000 the best month ever, which is not much. And yet I've been able to help through bringing people together and articulating business strategies and other such things, people who are doing 10 times that or more to really grow their businesses. So I've realized that the value that I bring to the marketplace of e-commerce sellers is not necessarily that of, look at me, I make 100,000 a month and you can just copy my strategy based on 10 products. It's okay, so I'm not a big seller on Amazon, as particularly at the moment. I'll get back in there, but what I can bring is insight into hundreds and hundreds of product lines from lots of different businesses, but not from a superficial quick chat, but a deep dive over months and months and now getting up to years. So that's what I can offer, and that insight actually has been very important indeed in realizing the value that I bring to you, the beloved listener or reader. Another learning obviously is do your intellectual property due diligence on the next product. Make sure you check for patents, which is a bit fiddly and difficult, but now I know how important that is. And also dealing with issues promptly, no more head in the sand. The final thing is get healthy and stay healthy is absolutely mission critical. I, like a lot of people with reasonable health and ambition, like a lot of entrepreneurs, of course, I have been taking my health for granted and pounding away at building businesses, too many businesses probably, and two in a way that wasn't leveraged with help from others, with sensible processes and people plugged into that. Beginning to get there now. The PLP course was a great learning curve for that, but I need to respect the fact that even if I bring people in, the dynamo, the driver of those businesses, at least initially, is very much going to be me. And as the entrepreneur and the founder of the business and the CEO, the director, and therefore I've got to keep my health and energy up. So talking of which, I need to go make dinner. My wife's about to come back, and I am, if we're going to stay happily married and healthy, I'm going to create some vegetables on time for myself and my wife. So for that reason, I'm now going to sign off. Do not forget to join the debate. If you've got things, obviously, as you can tell, I'm killing some product lines off or some services off, but creating quite a lot of others. And in the next episode, we're going to talk about 2019, what's coming up in Amazing FBA. I'm going to separate it out. So if you've got thoughts about what I should or shouldn't offer you as my beloved consumer and client, whatever we are, then get over to amazingfba.com/FB, F as in face, B as in book, amazingfba.com/FB, F for Freddy, B for Bertie, or F for face, B for book, and let me know your thoughts about what stuff you think I should offer. Should an online mastermind be offered for beginners, for example? Would you sign up for something like that if it was affordable? And what kind of price would you be prepared to pay? Anything like that. Any thoughts you have? What topics you think I should put in the podcast for the next year? What experts you'd love me to interview, etc. More on that topic in the next show. In the meantime, welcome back to 2019. Let's make this a year where you kill it. Let's do this.